Malawi officially became a democracy in 1994.
People are free.
But it was only 10 years on when it really started firmly on its path of recovery. And part of that process was developing a sustainable financial sector.
We are coming from a situation whereby we had a very few banks in Malawi. Within a short period, 2 more banks joined in. And within the past 5 years, and today, we are now talking of 11 commercial banks and 2 discount houses. You're also looking at the number of bankable people, the people that currently hold bank accounts. I think it has grown to a mere 10% to about 20% now of the entire population.
A liberalised economy, renewed donor interest, debt cancellation and a stable political environment are all contributing to the growth in the financial sector here in Malawi. And this in turn is seeing increased investment by other African banks.
3 new banks have entered the banking sector over the last few months: Intercontinental Commercial Bank, First Discount House and EcoBank. As part of its aggressive expansion plans, EcoBank, which is Africa's largest bank by geographic spread, moved from its West African base to East Africa in Rwanda and now Southern Africa in Malawi.
We acquired Loiter Bank with 2 branches. At the moment, we'll say we're small. We are ranked number 9 among 11 banks in the country, but our goal is to be among the top 3 banks.
But acquisitions in a developing economy require some adjustments to the day-to-day running of the business.
The bank we acquired is essentially a wholesale bank, and our focus is to be a retail bank. So we first need to change that mindset, to get the people to look at it as we are serving customers. So the major challenge has been human resources management, but this we are getting over with. The second challenge has been on the issue of forex as well, because there is a lot of dependence on importation, and the country does not generate so much foreign exchange.
And Malawi could play a major role in kickstarting the new alliance between South Africa's Nedbank and EcoBank.
Incidentally, it's only in Malawi that you have EcoBank and Nedbank operating together. In every other country, you find EcoBank and you not find Nedbank, or you find Nedbank and you don't find EcoBank.
The growth of the banking sector runs alongside the development of the Malawi Stock Exchange. During the liberalization of the economy, privatized government organizations were the major listings on the bourse, and from around 2005, there was a lot of interest from foreign investors looking for exposure in Africa. But all that changed last year when investors pulled out due to the global financial crisis.
There was actually a heightened awareness of the existence of the market, roughly from about 2004 on the part of investors. That's actually when you started seeing quite a bit of interest from the retail, small-scale investor, the domestic investor coming through into the market. Whereas before then, of course, it was actually quite very much the international investor that was quite a big influence in this market. Towards the end of 2008, we also actually witnessed now the sort of withdrawal of actually the international investor. Over the last 2 months or so, we've actually seen the international investors slowly coming back into this market as well. And we're actually just hopeful that things will actually pick up from that point on.
There are also plans in the pipeline to automate the bourse.
In the next 12 months, we should actually be up and running with an electronic central depository system, moving away from the current paper-based system, that's the manual system. Then we're actually looking at into the second half of 2010, moving on into 2011, also actually doing the front end.
Last year, in the midst of a global financial crisis, the Malawi Stock Exchange saw the listing of telecoms company TNM.
We jokingly said that we would make it to the Guinness Book of Records, being the only company to get listed in a depression. But I think Malawi has also, a bit of a closed economy. Also, the stock exchange here is still developing, and being in the process, we never got negative signals that really forced us to come back on the decision. So we went ahead, and it was quite successful. I think we listed for a price of 2 kwacha. It went up a bit, but came down, and it's quite stable.
Like other African markets, growth in this sector is centered around demand by low-end consumers. More than half of Malawi's population is under the age of 18, and only around 2.5 million people have cell phones, providing the perfect combination for value addition mobile phone technology. And this is key to TNM's growth strategy.
What you see in more maturing markets, although this is not a real mature market, is that you see that a lot of the revenues are coming from, or a growing part of the revenues are coming from value-adding services. And we see that also. We were the first one to introduce ring-back tones, which is highly successful, with also for me an incredible big amount of users. Then we're talking about 100,000 users already.
Rapid economic growth in Malawi's newfound democracy has allowed the right climate for local entrepreneurs to flourish. Mike Chilewe is the Mike in Mike's Trading, a welding company that's grown from a startup using borrowed equipment to supplying products to major corporates like TNM, Zain and Toyota.
We are coming from a culture where most of the companies were owned by foreigners, like the direct investors, the foreign direct investors. So it's just now when we've learned and realized that we're late as Malawi indigenous people. For fellow Malawians to accept you, it was very difficult because they were used to the foreigners. But now we can see an acceptance. Because of that acceptance, Mike's Trading is now trying to change into other products because we can see the opportunities. So we are really growing with the economy.
And while Mike's Trading in Blantyre, Malawi might seem about as far from Wall Street as humanly possible, the effects of the credit crisis are just as strong.
Because of the credit crunch happening in the US, it has also affected us here because the banks are very, very careful in the way they want to give out money. I would give you an example where we want to put up we want to diversify into the hotel industry. But it's difficult for us because the banks are very rigid. They cannot just give out the money anyhow because you have a lucrative project that you want to pursue. So that is also bringing in a restrictive growth for us, because for them to give you, it's not just about the collaterals, because the Americans failed despite the collaterals presented to the banks. So they're very cautious.